Mason Heintschel played a great game in his first college football start against Boston College. Pitt ends up winning 48-7. Just an overall dominant performance on offense and defense from the Pitt Panthers. We're going to take a look at what the true freshman quarterback did. Really impressed with the game that Mason Heintschel played. And what really stuck out to me was the pocket presence and the pocket manipulation that he plays with an 18-year-old. There's a lot of quarterbacks that we watch, even guys that are draft age, that are been in college football for 3+ years, and you'll say, okay, you really like the arm talent, you really like the progressions. They just don't do a great job of gauging how much time they have in the pocket. That's what really stuck out to me with Mason Heintschel, and a lot of people talk about it being an internal timer. I really don't like calling it a timer because it's more of an internal temperature, more of a thermometer. You got to feel that pressure. You can't just force the pressure when it's not there. And I think Heintschel did a great job of that, the way that he can just tell when he doesn't have time to, back up and hit a route. Look at the way that he first, all of a sudden he knows doesn't have time to hit a route, passes on this first rushing lane because it's not there, then passes on the second, and then bounces this outside for a 5-6 yard gain. This is just one play, but throughout the entire game, this Pitt offensive line did a great job. For the most part, Mason Heintschel had a whole lot of time to deliver throws downfield, but when he didn't, he did a really good job feeling that pressure. It's not just a timer, like I said, it's more of a feel thing. It's not always going to be 3 seconds. It's going to depend on how much time he has. And then this is a really nice move. I just saw Tommy Castellanos, the Florida State quarterback, did this against Virginia, and what he did was, this route looks open. This tight end looks open right now, but it's really not. It's open in the sense that there's nobody on the tight end, but it's not open in the sense that the quarterback's got a lot of heat in his face right now. What Tommy did was he tried to throw this route right now, and it ends up getting batted and intercepted by this dude blitzing. Look at the way that Heintschel already has the pocket move, to just dip his shoulder, fake the throw. This dude jumps. Heintschel rolls out and just dumps it off. Florida State, Tommy Castellanos is having a great season, but even him as like a fifth-year senior didn't make that throw. Now, this is a beautiful, when he has time, also we're going to see a lot more downfield throws with more clean pockets here. He has a bit of an unconventional release. You're going to hear like the draft gurus talk about that, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a great throw downfield, hitting this wide receiver in stride. There was another one, I think, that didn't end up making the video we're going to look at right now, but again, with time here, we saw him before. This is what I mean when it's not an internal timer. We're going to see him not do a great job of this in a little bit, where he might force the issue too soon, but he knows he has a clean pocket, so he can let these deep routes develop and then hit them if they're there. And then this is another great ball here. Think he has a good arm. You see what I mean, though, the nuance of the pocket presence? Because before we saw him bail because the pressure was there. He feels very comfortable right now. He's not feeling more pressure than is there. We're going to see, I think, this next clip. He forces this issue a bit sooner. I'm not going to get too nitpicky about it because he ends up running for a gain, and I'd prefer him to bail up instead of bail out. This is another thing that Chandler Morris, the Virginia quarterback, doesn't do a good job of. These routes, these rushing lanes will be right in front of him, and he just turns his back and tries to go outside and find a receiver. I think it's a good thing that Heintschel is stepping up to bail, not feeling that he has to go out. So that's really what it was to me. For an 18-year-old, the pocket presence that this dude already has, those are things that's really important to show up on film because you can't get better at that in practice. You can rep it, but there's never going to be a situation in practice where you're actually going to get your head taken off by a lineman. All these quarterbacks wear red shirts and all that in practice. This is the first one. Clean pocket, does a good job seeing that this linebacker didn't get enough depth to get underneath this 10-yard in. There's a lot of throws throughout this entire game that he hit like that. Now, this is the only play where I was like, wow, you could tell this kid's 18. This one should never be made. Not even playing in your backyard does this throw get made. When you're rolling out and you don't have your feet set, the ball just never goes where you think it is, especially if you're going to throw this far downfield into the middle of the field. This one should have been intercepted. The thought was all right. This route was there if he had his feet planted. He has the arm strength to throw this on the money, but, not with absolutely no base he's throwing off of. This is just going to hang up in the air way too long. This is the only throw where I was like, oh, that was an 18-year-old playing football right there. For the most part, everything was really clean, like I said, with the pocket presence. And then this is him again. Sees that this linebacker that's supposed to be getting underneath this seam here, this out, just isn't in a good spot to make a play on the ball, and he has the arm strength to just deliver this on the money to 82 here. We saw that throughout the game. That's how you throw for 323 yards. It's not always going to be those bombs downfield. It's going to be the pocket manipulation. It's going to be not making bad decisions, and it's going to be hitting those easy ones, which aren't as easy as they look. You know, it's a hard thing to read a defense. Here he is again, just stepping up in the pocket, sees a lot of green grass. This is something I wanted to talk about. I don't think he's a great athlete. I don't think this is a guy that's going to run a 4.4 or 4.5. He's very efficient with his moves. Everything just happens upfield. And he has the athleticism to make a cut or two to kind of force the issue, I think, or to buy himself some more time. This is a nice throw on the run for touchdown here. He's athletic enough to get it done. That's what I'll say. This is, again, just a nice read that this middle hole dropper is not in a position to get underneath this 10-yard route, this 15-yard route. And then has the arm strength. I said this about Chandler Morris, but I'll say it about Heintschel also. He has the mental acuity, or whatever you say, to make a decision, and then the arm strength to execute on the decision. I think that's what we saw against Boston College from the true freshman. Anyways, that's what Mason did against Boston College. You guys let me know what you think. If you want a place to write all your evaluations, I have a lot of different players up on we-draft.com. If there's a player that you want to write about that's not up there, please reach out and I'll make sure I get them up on there. But that's we-draft.com. What do you guys think about Mason? Thanks for watching.